I need to do that. In note for future editing self, put a counter on the amount of times I say color in this episode. Hello and welcome to Ungimmicked Performance Reviews with episode 3 of season 8. Today, Connor McDonald joins me, Gonçalo Souza, in analyzing Yan Ma's performance.
This was a tough call on who we were gonna pick, but I think
Yes.
we ultimately just decided it had to be Yan Ma.
Yeah, we'll get to talk about it, but it's a beautiful performance. We're really excited to get into it, so run it.
So I know we're stopping it really early already, like we usually do, but I think it's important to note that I like how Penn and Teller Fools is capitalizing on the fact that they're filming in different locations. We are no longer restricted to just the stage in Las Vegas, and now we see people all across the world, in Germany, in China. I mean, this is fantastic. The set is beautiful, and I'm sure that everyone else is just as fascinated with it as I am.
So the routine has been going on for about 20 seconds, and no magic has happened yet, which makes perfect sense, because she doesn't look like a magician, she looks like a ballerina, and a ballerina is supposed to dance. So we have 20 seconds of ballet before any production happens. And then a flower is pulled out, and she holds the pose very casually. She's strong, she's confident in it, but it's not boom, in your face magic. So it's a very careful production. Comes out a flower, turns, comes out the other flower. I really like that beginning sequence and the pacing of that.
Here we're seeing a combination of 2 to 3 different art forms, because I think she said she did gymnastics, ballet, and magic. And I know at Ungimmicked we definitely advocate having hobbies and passions outside of magic, because it helps define who you are as a person and as a magician. And here we see Yan Ma combining almost all three all three aspects of her personality into one cohesive routine, and it is beautiful.
Now, I want you to analyze this wide shot, because we have the building, we have the trees, and we have the decorations that are set on it, and then we have Yan in the middle, dressed in white. Perfect. She's going to produce a bunch of colors. She has to be dressed in white, because otherwise it's very overwhelming and she needs to contrast with that. She produces the 2 flowers, the red and the yellow. Important on these colors, they're both warm colors, so they make sense with each other. The red is all the details around the trees and around the building. They're all in red. And then the yellow contrasts with the red perfectly, even if we're going with this theme of Chinese tradition, and apologies in advance for the pronunciation that's coming, but the hongbaos that I've seen, the envelopes that are given out during the Chinese New Year, they're always red, and they normally have some yellow ornaments or some yellow writing on them. So these colors make sense together. They complete the whole picture. I quite like all the choices made here. After these 2 flowers, she starts producing cards, and she produces one. I think the first one is yellow, and then she produces another one that's a different color. Then she produces a third one that's another color, and then pieces of paper and a little confetti shower. It was too quick. You got me excited for a rainbow. I was like, okay, we're gonna get colors. The buildup that I was expecting was not met, so there was a little bit of a difference between expectations and payoff.
The audience is kind of going along with this journey with you, and it's easier to digest when there's a flow to it, and when the audience is just, when you lead them on to expect something and then you don't deliver, it just feels like a sharp cut, and you're like, oh, okay, we're not going in that direction. Not that I thought we were, but we're not. Okay, and when that's fine, but sometimes it's just more enjoyable when it's a fluid river.
It felt too soon to pull out the cards, honestly. It just felt too soon. She could have held back a little bit and start producing the colors just 30 seconds, 45 seconds later. It didn't need those different textures yet.
There's a small move here that she does that's very, very magician-y. And when people do manip and stuff like that, it is like, that is the move you do. You go like this or something like that, just to show that your hands are empty, and then when you come back, there's something in it.
Yeah, it's the natural flow of things.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great convincer, but it didn't feel very, like, ballerina-y, or it didn't feel very, like, it didn't feel like it fit with the actions and the motions that she was already doing, so it felt really out of place.
Yeah, she broke character. She was a ballerina that was doing magic. And suddenly she became a full manip act in a tutu.
Super small, but sometimes those small details matter.
Now we go into a nice sequence, and there's a good build-up. She starts with cards, then we have a silk, and then from the silk we have an umbrella, and then 2 more umbrellas come out of there. So it's a nice build-up, a note on the cleanup of the umbrellas. Also very, very nice, very elegant. She just throws them out, they float, and they completely exit the stage. So that was very well executed as well. And then after we have all these colors, these rainbows, she pulls out a fan of cards from the last umbrella, and that one is yellow and red. So we're back to the original colors. Then she has a second fan, and I'm sorry, my memory might fail me a little bit if it's the second fan or if it's the reverse of the first fan, but there are hints of green. Good. Because the main 2 colors, or the main color in this routine is red. Then we have yellow as the details, and the green is completely present in all the set. There's so many trees around. So I think it all made sense. The colors completed each other, and I thought it was a nice way, after these big productions, to bring it back to the beginning stage so that she can build up again. So it's kind of creating these roller coaster mounts.
Totally. I hope I'm not stepping outside of like my boundaries here, but I don't know who was editing this, but I didn't like how they cut away to show two different cuts. They cut away to show an audience member clapping, like of like the grid, and then they also showed Allison, and I just don't think that they should have done that, because one, it took me away, it took me out of the moment from what she was doing. And then I didn't catch this, but G caught this, that apparently she was holding a different prop when we cut back on one of the times, and it was like a moment of time just kind of slipped past us that we weren't in control of.
The cuts make no sense. They normally cut to Penn and Teller and stuff, because I get it. When you see somebody react, you want to react yourself. That's why reaction videos are so popular on YouTube. That's the reason. But especially, and I want to focus on the cut to the audience more than the cut to Allison, because that one made absolutely no sense. No other performance in the first 3 episodes has had a cut like this. So just this one. And in the moment that they cut, as you were saying, Connor, she was holding a cane, and when we come back, she has a silk. What happened to that cane? What? By the way, just before, when she turns a silk into a cane, it fooled the shit out of me.
Oh, yeah.
But then
literally, I was like, what? I was like, holy crap.
So I missed the other part of it. I wanted to see more of that cane, and the producers didn't let me. So that's a negative point for the producers. Nothing to say on Yan Yan, because she has no choice and no say in what happens there. Here we go back to cards, and she does this thing where she has cards in all her fingers. I have no clue how hands work like that. But she's holding all of these, and it's a beautiful image. And now we're going to probably go against one thing that we also preach a lot here on Gimmick. We're always saying what makes sense. Does this make sense? Does one thing build on top of the other? These cards don't make sense. She starts with flowers, and then she goes to cards, and then umbrellas, and then silks, and silks come back like 3 times. None of it makes sense. But we don't care in this case, because it's all a matter of intent. And that is our favorite word. Shout out to Alex Moreau.
Thank you, Alex.
The intent here is not to make sense. The intent here is to be beautiful. And that's what that image is. When she's holding all those cards with different colors all in her hands, her dress is all white. I've talked about that contrast before. It's beautiful, and that's all that it has to be.
It's definitely weird because we preach, what's your intent? Why are you doing this? And is this action motivated by this? These are all things to deeply consider. But sometimes it's okay to have an act that's just beautiful. Sometimes it doesn't need to make sense. If your intent is to make an act that is beautiful, that's perfectly okay. And that's in some cases that's even better.
In this case, I would say it's much better. Now we have a change of rhythm. The music picks up, and she changes what she's doing. Up until now, she's been doing these productions all based on colors, and with different props. She has cards, then she has the umbrellas. We talked about all that. Now she's not producing anymore. She's just throwing out cards. And this change of rhythm was needed. It adds variety to the performance itself in the way that the productions are happening. And her face says it all. She just has this big smirk at one point, and I love her for it. I just love that confidence that she put behind it. The color of the cards, they're blank, just like her dress. And this cleans the image. We've had so many different textures. Now it's just eye candy. Cards are flying, they're blank. It cleans it out, and we are ready for the final image.
Which is one thing I want to touch on. I seriously enjoyed how this routine had a proper climax. I think when you do manip, any sort of manip, it tends to get a little bit laggy in the middle because the first couple ones is like boom, boom, boom. Whoa, that's freaking awesome. And then it's like, oh, okay, even though I don't know how it's being done, it's like, okay, I get it. She's just pulling stuff from nowhere, and it just kind of get a little bit slow. And which is why when she changed the pace and started throwing the cards, that was deeply, deeply needed. Not that it was laggy, but it just changes it up. But even when she was throwing them, towards the end of throwing them, it kind of started to get a little bit like, okay, you're throwing cards, we get it.
I agree with you. Yeah, that might have gone on for 5 seconds too long.
And then, but then she pulled out a giant flag from nowhere, and then she pulled out another flag from nowhere, and it was like, boom, and it was over. And it was like, okay, wow, we just went from throwing cards to these giant flags, and it was like, okay, that was a proper climax.
Yeah, and they're full of color, with all the colors that we saw all the way through. They're big, they're bright, and again, it's the contrast, the way that you see everything that she produces kind of on the floor around her. I don't know what else to say. I just like that image. I don't know if I have a reason for it besides that it's loud. It's a very loud image. True, I like it. So, overall thoughts. Connor, I'll let you start.
I think if you have one thing to take away here... Actually, there are 2 things to take away here, in my opinion. One is that magic can be beautiful because you want it to be. If your intent is to make a routine beautiful, that is completely okay and encouraged. And second, try to combine your interests and hobbies into a magic routine, because if you're passionate about it, other people will be passionate about it too, because you're passionate about it.
You took my overall comments.
Sorry.
Hi. And that's the end of another performance review. This was the one that we chose for episode 3 of season 8 of Penn and Teller Fool Us, but we will be doing more and more episodes as they come out. So follow us, subscribe, ring the bell, go to social media @ungimmick everywhere. We would love to hear from you and interact with you. Leave a comment with your thoughts on this performance and any other things that you might want to comment on.
I think that's it. I was
Do
Connor.
you think that's it?
I think that was it. I think
You're
that's
not
it.
anymore?
Huh?
You're not
I
Connor
was
anymore?
Connor. No. I'm
You
no
were-
longer Connor.
You're no
but,
longer Connor.
I'm still trying to figure
and
that
I was
out.
Gonzalo, no longer. I'm now Richard.
Yes. Oh, Richard. Okay.
Yeah, that's
Okay.
But this is ungimmick.
That was a good save. That was a good one. That was a good ending.